Welcome to Golden Flame Stars. Do you remember the youngest Oscar winner in history? Or the kids who skyrocketed to superstardom before they could even understand what fame was? Hollywood is full of magic, where tiny stars achieve gargantuan feats. Driven by raw instinct, they became icons overnight. But what happened when they grew up? Who kept their spark alive to conquer the industry's biggest stages? And who faded into a fond memory? Let's see where the child stars we loved are today. Hayley Mills became one of Disney's brightest child stars through Pollyanna and later The Parent Trap, symbolizing wholesome charm for an entire generation. Unlike many child actors, she carried that fame into a long, resilient career, though her adult path was quieter than her early peak. Now 80, she still appears on screen and remains a cherished classic film icon. Ke Huy Quan first became unforgettable as Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, then returned in one of Hollywood's most inspiring comebacks by winning the 2023 Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once. After years of scarce roles and a long hiatus, he rebuilt his career brilliantly. Now 54, he is thriving again with major film and TV projects. Jodie Foster stunned audiences as a child with Taxi Driver, earning an Oscar nomination at just 12 and proving she was far more than a typical child star. Unlike many early talents, she grew into one of cinema's most respected adult actresses, later winning 2 Oscars. Now 63, she remains a powerful actress, director, and enduring Hollywood force. Henry Thomas became unforgettable as Elliot in E.T. the Extraterrestrial, giving one of the most heartfelt child performances of the 1980s. Unlike many former child stars, he kept working steadily instead of disappearing after early fame. Now 54, he remains active in film and television, with later work in projects like The Haunting of Hill House, keeping his career strong. Natalie Portman broke out young with Lyon, The Professional, showing unusual intelligence and emotional depth long before adulthood. She is one of the rare child stars who kept growing artistically, eventually winning the Oscar for Black Swan. Now 44, she still commands major prestige projects and remains one of the most accomplished actresses of her generation. Jerry Mathers became unforgettable as Theodore Beaver Cleaver in the classic sitcom Leave It to Beaver. He also made Hollywood history as one of the first child stars to receive a share of merchandising profits tied to the show. Instead of chasing awards, he stepped away to study, serve in the Air National Guard, and build a successful business career. Now 77, he sometimes returns to acting only for passion, not fame. Drew Barrymore became world-famous as Little Gertie in E.T. the Extraterrestrial, one of the most beloved child performances of the 1980s. But early fame led to addiction, rehab, and a deeply troubled youth before she rebuilt her life. Now 51, she is a successful actress, producer, entrepreneur, and the warm, familiar host of The Drew Barrymore Show. Brooke Shields became a global child star sensation through Pretty Baby and later The Blue Lagoon, her beauty and poise making her one of the most talked-about young faces of her era. As an adult, she built a steady career in acting, writing, and public life rather than fading away. Now 60, she remains visible on screen and in the spotlight, still working and reinventing herself. In 1974, Tatum O'Neal won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress as Addie Loggins in Paper Moon, starring opposite her father, Ryan O'Neal, with no formal acting training. Her tuxedo-clad acceptance at age 10 became one of Oscar's most iconic moments. After that peak, her career faded amid addiction, family conflict, and a turbulent marriage to John McEnroe. Now 62, she continues healing and reflecting in her memoir, A Paper Life. Anna Paquin won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in 1994 at just 11 for The Piano, her very first film role after beating more than 5,000 other girls. Her nearly 20-second stunned pause when her name was announced remains one of the cutest moments in Oscar history. Unlike many child stars, she broke the so-called curse and built a strong, lasting career. Now 43, she is still thriving in high-quality projects. Christian Bale first stunned audiences as a child in Spielberg's Empire of the Sun, showing intensity and emotional depth far beyond his age. He is one of the rare child actors who grew into a world-class adult star, winning an Oscar and building a career on fearless transformation. Now 52, he remains one of Hollywood's most respected leading men, with major new films still ahead. Anna Chlumsky became unforgettable as Veda in My Girl, giving one of the sweetest and most emotional child performances of the 1990s. Rather than burn out, she stepped away from acting for several years, finished college, then made an impressive comeback. Now 45, she is respected as a strong adult actress, especially for her acclaimed work on Veep. Kirsten Dunst became a standout child star as Claudia in Interview with the Vampire, a performance that brought her major acclaim at a very young age. Unlike many child actors, she kept growing artistically and built a respected adult career with films like Melancholia, The Power of the Dog, and Civil War. Now 44, she is still thriving in high-profile film projects. Lindsay Lohan became a child star favorite in The Parent Trap, showing charm and comic timing far beyond her years. Her rise continued into teen stardom, but addiction struggles, legal troubles, and public scrutiny badly disrupted her career for years. Now 39, she has rebuilt her image with a calmer comeback, returning to acting and leading new high-profile projects. Kieran Culkin first stood out as a gifted child actor in films like Home Alone and especially Igby Goes Down, where his sharp, natural screen presence became undeniable. Rather than fading, he matured into one of the most acclaimed actors of his generation through Succession and A Real Pain. Now 43, he is at a career peak, fresh off his Oscar win. Macaulay Culkin became one of the most famous child actors ever as Kevin McAllister in Home Alone, turning mischief and comic timing into global fame. After that peak, he struggled with burnout, family conflict, and long stretches away from major acting. Now 45, he lives more quietly, makes selective appearances, and remains an enduring pop culture icon. Jonathan Lipnicki became a beloved child star through Jerry Maguire and later Stuart Little, where his sweetness and confidence made him unforgettable. Unlike some former child actors, he did not fully maintain that early momentum and has spoken honestly about career frustration in adulthood. Now 35, he keeps acting, training, and pursuing more meaningful roles while staying hopeful about a stronger comeback. Mara Wilson became a beloved child star through Mrs. Doubtfire and especially Matilda, where her intelligence and warmth made her unforgettable. But after early fame, she stepped away from Hollywood, later speaking openly about the emotional strain of childhood stardom. Now 38, she works more as a writer, voice performer, and thoughtful public advocate than a traditional screen actress. Alicia Silverstone first rose as a teen sensation in The Crush, and then became an unforgettable 1990s icon with Clueless. Unlike many youthful stars, she carried that fame into a long career spanning film, television, and activism, while keeping her image distinct and recognizable. Now 49, she is still acting steadily, with recent screen projects keeping her in the public eye. Leonardo DiCaprio first stood out young in roles like This Boy's Life and What's Eating Gilbert Grape, proving early that he was far more than a teen idol. He then matured into one of the biggest stars of his generation, winning an Oscar and leading major films for decades. Now 51, he remains a top actor and producer with major new projects still ahead. Scarlett Johansson drew attention early with films like Manny and Amp, Low and the Horse Whisperer, showing unusual maturity and emotional depth as a young actress. She successfully transformed that early promise into a huge adult career, becoming both a prestige performer and a global box office star. Now 41, she remains one of Hollywood's most successful and influential actresses. At 13, Edward Furlong was discovered at a youth club with no acting experience and became a global sensation as John Connor in Terminator 2, winning major awards and proving he had real talent. But he later became one of Hollywood's harshest child star cautionary tales, as severe addiction derailed his career. Now 48, he appears mostly in smaller projects and fan conventions. Fans still remember Mara Habel for her haunting performance as young Christina Crawford in Mommy Dearest, filmed when she was just 9 years old. Despite the film and Oppo's mixed reviews, Mara's acting remains a feat of emotional depth and focus. Now 54, she lives a quieter creative life and spends most of her time training the next generation. She is the founder and director of Rising Star Academy in New Jersey. Star Wars: The Phantom Menace turned Jake Lloyd into a global child star at the age of 9. But the spotlight quickly turned harsh, school bullying and nonstop commentary, and he quit acting by 12. In later years, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and faced serious setbacks, including a 2015 high-speed chase arrest and an 18-month inpatient stay after a major episode in 2023. Now 37, he's in rehab, committed to therapy and medication. Shia LaBeouf's breakout role in Even Stevens at 14 earned him a Daytime Emmy and instant stardom. That early fame fed reckless cycles, highly public arrests, including 2014 in NYC and 2017 in Savannah, and open struggles with addiction and anger. He was also sued by ex-FKA Twigs over abuse allegations, a case settled in 2025. Now 39, he's tried to rebuild through smaller roles and reflection. At 11, Brad Renfro's role in The Client brought instant fame that rewired his world. Yet, growing up in public left no room for error. As his spotlight faded, personal struggles intensified, leading to a cycle of high-profile arrests and failed stints in rehab. Tragically, he died at 25 from an overdose, a haunting reminder of how early success can turn into a desperate struggle for survival. At age 6, Shirley Temple's role in Bright Eyes made her America's biggest star, lifting national morale with a child's smile. Yet, such fame stole her childhood, turning playtime into performance and identity into branding. She eventually retired as a teen to reclaim a quiet life. Her later success in public service proved she grew far beyond the pint-sized image the world could never forget. She died in 2014 at age 85. Starting at 6, Mickey Rooney became America's top box office draw by 16 with A Family Affair. Such early fame warped his upbringing, as constant work blurred boundaries and forced adulthood too soon. Despite his stardom, Rooney faced failed marriages and financial ruin, proving the industry often exploits young talent. His 93-year life remains a sobering reminder. When success arrives prematurely, it provides no safety, only a lifelong struggle to survive. Catapulted to global fame at 11 as Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe struggled to grow up like a normal kid. He's spoken about living with OCD and breathing difficulties, while the whirlwind schedule and constant attention made school and friendships hard to maintain. Paparazzi tracked his every move, turning privacy into a luxury. He battled alcohol dependence and mental strain, then rebuilt his identity through daring stage work and offbeat films. Now 36, he's respected for his range, not just nostalgia. At 11, Rupert Grint became Ron Weasley, one-third of a generation-defining trio. Overnight, normal life vanished. He said he missed the simple days before fame and felt uneasy, even afraid, when photographers trailed him hoping for something to happen. Stepping outside could feel like existing just to be snapped. After the films, he chose smaller movies and TV to protect privacy. Now 37, he's a steady actor and dad with heart. Elijah Wood began acting at age 8 and soon skyrocketed to global child stardom in films like Radio Flyer. Unlike many of his peers, Wood spectacularly defied the Apos, child star curse, and Apos, successfully transitioning into an adult legend as Frodo in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That pressure could have swallowed him, but he leaned into grounded choices. Now 44, he's known for steady, selective work and staying human under myth-level fame. At 15, River Phoenix became a teen idol after Stand By Me, and fame shoved him into adulthood overnight. The attention was constant, and so were the expectations around image, money, and being perfect. He chased deeper roles while trying to stay grounded in a scene that glamorized excess. In 1993, he died from a drug overdose at 23. His story still warns how fast fame can burn. By 6, Jonathan Brandis was acting, and by his teens, he was a heartthrob. Fan mail, headlines, and pressure to stay the boy everyone loves. That kind of fame can trap you in one version of yourself while you're still growing. When roles slowed in his 20s, the whiplash hit hard. In 2003, he died by suicide at 27. His story highlights how fragile identity can be after stardom. Cast at 11 as Peter in Finding Neverland, Freddie Highmore became the rare child actor critics took seriously. Fame arrived early, but he stayed low-key, choosing craft over chaos while growing up in public. As an adult, he reinvented himself. Bates Motel proved his range, and The Good Doctor made him a global lead. Now 33, he works selectively, writing and producing on his own terms. At 14, Corey Feldman's roles in The Goonies and Stand By Me cemented his premier child star status. yet he was treated more like a product than a person. This early exposure to industry exploitation fueled years of addiction and chaos. For Feldman, the spotlight offered no protection, only vulnerability. Now 54, he advocates for change, turning his survival and past trauma into a cautionary tale for future generations. At 16, Taylor Lautner became a global phenomenon as Jacob in Twilight, but his physique, not his talent, stole headlines. That sudden objectification and constant scrutiny severely shaped his confidence and identity. The spotlight, full of judgment, forced a premature retreat to safeguard his mental health. Now 34, Lautner operates on his own terms, prioritizing stability and self-worth over the chaos of early fame. At 18, Kristen Stewart became the center of a pop culture storm with Twilight, and early fame made growing up feel public and unforgiving. Every mistake, relationship, and mood turned into a headline. That intensity pushed her to retreat, toughen up, and fight for control of her own narrative. She later rebuilt through daring indie choices and acclaimed performances. Now 35, she's known for range, courage, and hard-won self-definition. At just 6, Joseph Gordon-Levitt began working steadily, and Third Rock from the Sun made him famous while he was still figuring out who he was. Growing up in front of audiences taught him discipline, but it also pushed him to protect his identity early. At the height of teen fame, he stepped away for college and privacy. Now 44, he's built a long career by choosing balance, not burnout. At 17, Keira Knightley burst into global fame with Bend It Like Beckham and then Pirates of the Caribbean. Essentially learning adulthood while tabloids graded her face, body, and image every week. She's described anxiety and panic tied to that pressure, and how it forced her to build boundaries young. Now 40, she's a prestige actress who picks smart roles and fiercely guards her private life. At 6, Heather O'Rourke became unforgettable as Carol and in Poltergeist, and the public instantly owned her innocence. Growing up famous meant long sets, adult expectations, and a childhood measured in interviews and premieres. She kept working, but she never got the chance to grow up off camera. In 1988, she died suddenly at 12, shocking Hollywood. Her brief life is a reminder that child stardom can be fragile. Discovered at 19 months, baby Peggy made 150-plus shorts by age 5 and earned $1.5 million a year. The workload was brutal, 8-hour days, 6 days a week, while her parents spent the fortune. As Diana Sarah Carey, she rebuilt as an author, film historian, and child actor advocate. She died in 2020 at 101. Deanna Durbin's teen musicals were credited with keeping Universal afloat, making her one of the era's biggest draws. Yet fame didn't feel like freedom. By 27, she quit Hollywood cold, moved to a farmhouse outside Paris, and guarded her privacy for decades. She rarely spoke publicly again, choosing anonymity over applause. Bobby Driscoll was Disney's first contracted kid star, voiced Peter Pan, and won a juvenile Oscar. Then puberty and studio tastes turned, roles dried up, and he slid into arrests and substance abuse. In 1968 at 31, he was found dead in an abandoned Manhattan building, initially unidentified, and later buried on Hart Island. Scotty Beckett grew up in our gang comedies, but grief and pressure derailed his transition to adulthood. After a beating, he entered a Los Angeles nursing home on May 8, 1968. 2 days later, he was found dead at 38. Reports cite an overdose, though the coroner didn't name an exact cause. At 12, Claude Jarman Jr. won a juvenile Oscar for The Yearling, then walked away before fame could define his adulthood. He served in the Navy and built a behind-the-scenes career in film culture, including leading the San Francisco International Film Festival for years. He died January 12, 2025, at 90. At 12, Johnny Crawford became America's son as Mark McCain on The Rifleman, growing up in front of millions. He also scored pop hits like Cindy's Birthday, but adult roles were harder once the boyish image stuck. Later, he led a vintage dance orchestra. Diagnosed with Alzheimer's, he died in 2021 at 75. Tony Dow became America's Big Brother as Wally Cleaver on Leave It to Beaver. After the show, he directed and produced TV for years, then reinvented himself as a sculptor. In May 2022, he publicly revealed a cancer diagnosis. Dow died on July 27, 2022, at 77. Stanley Livingston became famous as Chip on My Three Sons. After child stardom, he stayed in entertainment as a producer, director, and editor. Now 75, he focuses on teaching, helping actors navigate the business side. Through workshops and the Actor's Journey seminars, he trains newcomers with real industry know-how. Chaplin cast Jackie Coogan in The Kid, 1921, making him a megastar. At 21, he learned his mother and stepfather had spent most of his earnings. The scandal helped spur the Coogan Act to protect child actors' money. He later played Uncle Fester on The Addams Family. He died in 1984, aged 69. Kevin Corcoran was 6 when Disney made him Moochie. Then he starred as Arliss in Old Yeller. He quit acting at 15, refusing to grow up as a brand, and moved behind the camera. He became a producer and assistant director on Baywatch and Murder, She Wrote. He passed away on October 6, 2015 at 66. At 14, Bonita Granville earned an Oscar nomination for These Three, proving she could play sweet and terrifyingly sharp. As roles slowed, she pivoted from actress to power player after marrying producer Jack Rather in 1947. Together, they helped build major TV ventures, including Lassie. She passed away in 1988, aged 65. Freddie Bartholomew was 1930s Hollywood's perfect English boy, earning huge paychecks while still a kid. But lawsuits and non-stop work took a toll, and his stardom faded as he grew up. After wartime service, he reinvented himself in television production and advertising. He died in 1992 at 67, far from child star chaos. At 12, Tommy Rettig became TV's first Lassie boy, Jeff Miller, and fame left him craving a normal teen life. After 4 seasons, he fought his way out of the contract. Adulthood brought public drug-related legal trouble, then a reinvention as a pioneering database programmer and author. He died in 1996 at 54. Brandon DeWilde became unforgettable at 11 in Shane, an Oscar-nominated performance built on pure, childlike emotion. He kept working into adulthood, proving he wasn't just a moment. Then, on July 6, 1972, his life ended in a traffic accident in Lakewood near Denver, cutting short a promising second act at 30. Barry Livingston joined My Three Sons in 1963 as Ernie Douglas and became a household name. Unlike many child stars, he kept working, landing roles in Zodiac and Argo. He also wrote a memoir, The Importance of Being Ernie, 2011. Now 72, he appears occasionally, far from his peak fame. Margaret O'Brien stole scenes in Meet Me in St. Louis, earning a juvenile Oscar at 7. But as she grew, the roles changed, and she didn't cling to the child star image. She stepped back for family and a quieter life, returning only by choice. Now 88, she's honored for staying grounded and intact. June Lockhart started acting young, appearing in A Christmas Carol, 1938, and growing into TV's most trusted mom. Fame never derailed her. She became Ruth Martin on Lassie and Maureen Robinson on Lost in Space. Her longevity was the rare child star victory. Steady work, no meltdown. She died in 2025 at 100. From adorable screen favorites to Oscar winners, quiet survivors, and unforgettable legends, these child stars gave us moments we still cherish decades later. Some rose higher, some struggled, and some found peace far from Hollywood, but each left a lasting mark on film history. Which child actor surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more unforgettable journeys through classic Hollywood.